what kind of details can you give this drawing?
Yeah.
Obviously, you already talked about how to delete lines, but what else can you add to it?
Well, there are many things we could do with this, but I just would like to highlight things that I hope will show the most of the things that you all do with your drawings. First things first, there are annotations and other parts which you can either handle by using the drafting tools, or the dimension, or the documentation. So, and actually there is a few in the edit part. Let's just start with this. So for example, if I would like to edit the existing content, there is a tool which is used a lot, and this is either the delete part or these here, the chamfer and fillet. I use them a lot. For example, the delete part, just as I mentioned, this is actually the same like this here. You can just go there and find and erase all sort of unnecessary details that you didn't want to end up with, but somehow you ended up, but because you have not set them up properly before or something. You just, cleared things up the way you want. And there is also this fillet tool, for example. I forgot, or I didn't have the effort to create nice rounded downspouts or something like that. So now I'm on the 2D level, I'm detailing that. So I'm just setting up a round off value. Let's just make that, I know it should be, I'm working in meters now. So let's just make that 0.1, for example, it's 10 centimeters. So 100 millimeters. So I just click here and here. So now it's round off.
Yeah.
So now I can
be playing with the hatches and everything to fill up that nicely. But this is the idea. This is how you would change the drawing line by line. What about explanation and text and arrowheads?
Well, text is very simple. You can find that in drafting. Text is also a very rich tool. You can even set up a text in table, which is useful when you would like to create something like, detailing for layers. I will just quickly show you that tool as well. But let's just place first a text like this is, I don't know, this was the north elevation. Let's just give it a title. Which now I will show you this approach, which I use a lot, but you can actually add text and other sort of annotations and things like that at the documentation level when you create the layouts. I used to create this in this way because then I already see the drawing as it will be kind of printed when I prepare the layout. So let's just say okay. And well, let's just place the title here, and then I can add another text and
what about
things like that.
Arrowheads and annotations?
Well, the arrowheads, these are things that you can find in the dimension. I mean, these are kind of the labels that you are talking about. Now, this label should be something like, let's just make this, I think, let's make it a maker, and it's a roof, for example, which I would like to point to. So in this case, you need to set the thing that you would like to set a reference to. And you can set up the text, and then you can set up as many breakpoints as you would like to. And then when you are finished, you can actually set up another one and place that also. Also, you can go to the settings and you can change the dimension, and you can actually add multiple leaders. So you can tell the software, okay, there is another thing, and this is also something like that, and then the software handles that way. So this way you can add more breakpoints. You don't have to just create any sort of other things. What I usually also use is the 2D groups, and sometimes I either use the polyline or the line to create arrows. There are default settings, built-in settings for example, there is this thing called the dashed polyline, which is useful when I would like to just highlight a part, because that will be a detail or something like that. As you can see, it appears with the dashed line, but also I can set it up by just simply having a broken line indicator, which is, I don't know, pointing from one direction to another, and then ends up with a indicator.
What about the explanatory text? Things that I think there are also groups, but let's say numbers, if you want to number the openings, for instance.
Well, as this is an elevation, it's wise to create some numbering for the colorings or something like that. So in that case, I go to the design center. There is the home of this design center, and I go to the groups, and there are built-in signs, which I can also create my own signs. So I just go to the signs and I use the, well, there are also arrows, which I just would like to point that these arrows are also handled in the settings, and you can use these for entrance arrows or something like that. And also you can go to the consignation signs or the circle signs. There is something called the square signs. I will just go with this because it's, as you can see, this is good for, you know, just indicating that this is a specific color here. And this is, I make a mistake here because they are obviously different. And there is also something like this here, and this should be this one, and so on. So I'm just setting these things up. These are actually groups. So what happens if I make a mistake? I can obviously change this to something else. Or I can just go here. Groups are specific that if they contain a text, you can go and find this local menu, and you don't have to explode the group. This is a logical step for those who already understand the group system. You don't have to do that because there is a dedicated tool to edit the text in group. And if you have multiple texts, those will be listed here. Now I can see that this is number 0. I just change it to number, I think 1 was not used. So I just use this one. So there is number 1, 0, and 3, and I can use any sort of other.
Question number 1 is deleting part of the hatch pattern.
Yeah.
Why is that, and how can you amend that?
Well, this is happening. Well, let me show you another example. This is happening for the same reason. This will happen, and in this case, you will understand why it's useful. For, let's say, okay, that was number 3. So number 3 should be inside this area. So this indicates number 3 will be referenced as glass surface or something like that. So I'm just clicking here and see, now it's clear and visible and easy to understand. And the same reason behind this, what you can see here, is to make things easier to understand, and those are holes in the hatching. So you can just click here, find the hole command, and delete the hole. And in that case, it will be cleared up.
So and you can do the same thing.
So if I just do the same thing quickly here, that's the same thing. Edit, that's a group. Let's just go here. This is the hatch here and hole, and delete all holes. So I don't have any holes. But sometimes this ends up with a drawing which is more difficult to understand because now the hatch is covering the content. It's in front of the group.
The order, maybe.
So you can actually change the drawing order. There is this, each and every item has its own drawing order, so you can just make it stronger in order than the other one, so it always appears on top of the other one, so it's easier to understand.